This is macOS Ken.
Apple shares hit new heights, continuing our recap of OS updates and other features Apple quietly tweaked. It is Wednesday, the 12th of June, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken, brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. We interrupt our WWDC OS update cavalcade for a holy moment from Wall Street. Holy Apple shares went insane on Tuesday. Having dropped nearly $4 Monday for a 1.9% shave, shares on Tuesday ended the day up $14.03, an increase of 7.26%, closing at $207.15, an all-time record for the company's shares. That increase, plus a slight drop for Nvidia, were enough to put Apple back in second place in terms of most valuable company on the planet, publicly traded anyway, with a market cap of $3.176 trillion with a T dollars. While Apple shares ended lower on Monday as the company's WWDC keynote wrapped up, a piece from MarketWatch indicates that upbeat notes from Apple watching analysts turned the beat around. Notes like one from Melius research analyst Ben Reitzes. While KeyBank analyst Brandon Nispel wrote a note Monday indicating that Apple's announcements weren't enough to drive iPhone upgrades, Mr. Reitzes disagrees. Quoting Reitzes' note, "Older stuff will be obsolete if you want AI, including all those iPhones bought during COVID. We now have more conviction in our supercycle thesis that could even result in iPhone revenue growth of about 20% for up to 2 years." Barron's had a couple of other bullish notes. That site had D.A. Davidson analyst Gil Luria raising his price target on Apple shares from $200 to $230. The way he sees it, the critical piece of information was that the functionality will only be backward compatible to iPhone 15 Pro, which means it could lead to a much-needed iPhone upgrade cycle. Seeming to feel similarly was Raymond James analyst Srini Pajuri. He thinks it's possible that Apple could bring Apple Intelligence compatibility to the entire iPhone 16 line, not just the Pros. If it did, that would stand the company in good stead. Pajuri indicates that for every 1% of installed iPhones that upgrade to newer models, Apple could see a 20-cent boost to its earnings per share. Two things on that, though. First, he only says Apple could expand its AI offerings to every model, not that it will. And second, even if it does widen availability, he and his expect performance differences could still help the mix in favor of Pro models. Pajuri has an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is a suddenly soggy $200. Similarly sodden, though no less stoked, is Oppenheimer analyst Martin Yang. Apple 3.0 ran part of a note he wrote. Reacting to Monday's WWDC keynote, Yang said the impressive list of AI features and their deep integration into iOS removes concerns of Apple lagging behind other platforms on AI development. It reminds users that Apple is not only a leader in hardware and software technology, but also a trailblazer when it comes to designing and implementing technology in ways that are convenient, impactful, and secure for its users. We came away bullish on iOS 18 and its potential to accelerate new iPhone and Apple product, iPad and MacBook replacement, starting fall of 24. He's got an outperform rating on Apple shares. His price target is $200. Last but not least, Morgan Stanley analyst Eric Woodring called it a WWDC that delivered versus high expectations, revealing details that he and his believe can ignite a device refresh cycle starting in fiscal year 25 and go on for years as Apple Intelligence moves past the US and the English-speaking world. Mr. Woodring has an overweight rating on Apple shares. His price target on the shares is $216. Of course, reactions aren't just for folks from Wall Street. I got an email from Paul yesterday saying, after watching the keynote, I am excited by the Apple Intelligence features, thinking it was a smart move to separate the private cloud servers from the open AI functionality. That gives Apple a great privacy story that Microsoft couldn't give a couple of weeks ago, and also doesn't lock them into a specific GPT model. I'm looking forward to seeing all the things that this will bring. I just hope they have the ability to update the local models without requiring a .point release of the operating systems. Thank you for your email, Paul. Everybody else, share your thoughts. You can send an email, info@macosken.com. You can also leave a voicemail, 716-780-4080. We now return you to our WWDC OS Update Cavalcade. Where in California is macOS taking us next? To the tall, tall trees of the California redwoods. Much may grow from macOS Sequoia. Some of the new features follow on from other OS updates we hit here on Tuesday, including improvements to Siri, Messages, Apple Maps, Photos, and Notes. Then there are updates specific to the Mac, like being able to access your iPhone. Slotting in among Apple's continuity features, macOS Sequoia introduces a new feature called iPhone mirroring. Apple's press release on the OS update says iPhone mirroring lets users fully access and engage with their iPhone through the Mac. The keynote basically showed an iPhone on a Mac screen exactly the way the iPhone would look if you were looking at the iPhone. The app layout and wallpaper are the same as on the target phone. Apple says users can swipe between pages on their home screen or launch and browse any of their favorite apps, with the Mac's keyboard, trackpad, and mouse offering navigation and control. For the tricksy among you, no, you cannot mirror your iPhone while mirroring your Mac and Apple Vision Pro. Not according to Engadget anyway. More than one person said that what Sequoia is doing for Windows tiling should have happened years ago. Still, they seem glad to see it. With that, Apple says when a user drags a window to the edge of the screen, macOS Sequoia automatically suggests a tiled position on their desktop. Users can release their window right into place, quickly arrange tiles side by side, or place them in corners, and keep even more apps in view. Apple is increasing its focus on gaming for the Mac. For developers, there's Game Porting Toolkit 2, making it easier to bring advanced games to Mac as well as iPhone and iPad. For players, Sequoia improvements are said to include smoother frame rates, decreased sound latency for second-gen AirPods Pro, and notable new titles. Among those are Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Resident Evil 2, World of Warcraft, The War Within, and a bunch of others. Can your Mac climb the Sequoia? Yeah, probably. A piece from my download blog lists machines compatible with the next version of macOS, including iMac Pro 2017 and later, iMac 2019 and later, Mac Pro 2019 and later, Mac Studio 2022 and later, MacBook Air 2020 and later, Mac Mini 2018 and later, and MacBook Pro 2018 and later. Of course, for those few remaining Intel machines, a lot of the whiz-bang will not work. Apple Intelligence, for example, is limited to Macs powered by Apple Silicon M series. The developer beta for macOS Sequoia is out now. The public beta is due out next month. It'll be out to the general public sometime this fall. What is new in watchOS 11? Well, this is going to shock you, but it's mostly focused on health and fitness. If you wear your Apple Watch while sleeping, it is up to a lot of stuff. Keeping tabs on your heart rate, respiratory rate, wrist temperature, sleep duration, and blood oxygen. With watchOS 11, Apple says the new Vitals app gives users a way to quickly view these key health metrics and gain better context when it comes to their health. It can also alert you if 2 or more of those metrics go out of whack. Apple Watch is adding a more granular look at the health of pregnant users. There's a new feature called Training Load, meant to measure the effect on the user's body of the intensity and duration of their workouts. Something that would have been great at the height of the pandemic, but at least we have it now. The ability to pause Apple Watch activity rings. Whether users are planning a rest day during their training, have an injury, or just need a day off, Apple says users now have the ability to pause their rings for a day, week, month, or more without affecting their reward streaks. If they had that years ago, I might still be out there streaking. The SmartSat gets improvements, and the Photos watch face gets smarter, helping a user select their best photo options through the magic of machine learning. Lots more for you to learn when you start playing. The developer beta for watchOS 11 is out now. The public beta is due out in July. The watchOS update will be out to the general public sometime this fall. As for which watches can take it, a piece from 9to5Mac says it'll be good to go on Apple Watch Series 6, 7, 8, and 9, both generations of Apple Watch Ultra and the second generation of Apple Watch SE. Rounding out our OS updates, for the 8 to 10 of you that have an Apple Vision Pro, Apple has announced visionOS 2. Refining might be the best way to describe this one. According to the company, the new version of the Spatial OS makes navigating Apple Vision Pro faster and easier for users to access key functions with new hand gestures to get to frequently used features like Home View and Control Center. New gestures allow users to see important information at a glance, like the current time and battery level, and perform actions like adjusting the volume. Borrowing a bit from iOS 18, visionOS 2 will let users rearrange apps, including compatible iPhone and iPad apps, and put them where they want them. Travel mode now supports train travel. The new operating system makes the device easier to share. Owners or primary users can add a guest user and have their eye and hand data saved for 30 days. And here is kind of a creepy one. visionOS can transform plain old photos from your photos library into spatial photos. The developer preview of visionOS 2 is available to members of Apple's developer program now. No word on a public beta. One assumes the OS will be out to everybody sometime this fall. Now, when I say out to everybody, we are likely talking about many more Vision Pro people. As had been expected, Apple did announce international locations and launch dates for Apple Vision Pro during Monday's keynote. Not surprisingly, Upload VR caught the places and dates. According to that report, orders start tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific for China, Japan, and Singapore. Units will show up a couple of weeks later, landing on Faces and, one assumes, Apple retail locations on Friday, the 28th of June. That is the same day orders start for Australia, Canada, Germany, France, and the UK. Orders begin at 5 a.m. Pacific. Deliveries will hit 2 weeks later, on Friday, the 12th of July. Somewhat surprisingly, while Apple was announcing the next round of OS versions, it was actually updating an existing one. Mac Rumors ran a piece Monday saying Apple had released visionOS 1.2. According to the report, visionOS 1.2 adds persona improvements such as improved hair and makeup appearance, as well as better rendering for eyesight. Messages supports contact key verification, and Apple made improvements to both the virtual keyboard and the Mac Virtual Display. There are also somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 security fixes. The update is free, and I have no idea how many of what you have to sacrifice to make that magic happen. There were other updates announced by Apple on Monday that don't fit neatly into any one operating system. For example, as had been rumored, Apple did announce a password management app called Passwords. Since we use passwords everywhere, the app works everywhere, including iOS, iPadOS, macOS, visionOS, and even Windows. That last one it does via iCloud. According to a piece from Engadget, the Passwords app will be able to list various user logins and categorize them based on service type. The app will also allow users to bypass manual password input by leveraging Face ID, Touch ID, and autofill. There are changes to the Home app coming with this fall's updates. A piece from iDownload blog lists some of the tweaks. Users can grant guests access to certain smart home features through a feature called Guest Access. The piece says that'll give users the ability to regulate when certain guests may enter, how they can enter, and other customizable features on a per-guest basis, allowing for easier security management. Hands-free unlock will let users unlock doors. Hands-free, it's right there in the name. Robot vacuum support lets users control the robo-suckers with Siri and voice commands. This includes telling your smart vacuum to clean the entire house or to spot clean a specific area. The Home app in iOS 18 and iPadOS 18 will also let users see electricity usage in a timescale format, letting them compare their electricity usage over time and see when they're consuming more or less power than usual. And finally today, if you are still using Apple's Journal app or thinking about giving it a go, the Cupertino company did announce some changes for it earlier this week. Apple Insider lists some of those, including a new minimalist mood tracker that'll let users easily record their state of mind to keep track of their mood over time. Time spent journaling can also be added as mindful minutes in the Health app with the update. Additionally, the piece says a new Insights view shows users their writing streaks, a calendar view with existing entries, and fun stats that help encourage users to write more often. It'll also allow users to easily find previous entries, sort entries, and search for specific content. Users will get all of that with this fall's iOS 18 release, though it is still an iPhone-only thing. No Journal app for iPad, according to the report. macOS Can, brought to you by me, and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOScan. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macoscan.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.